A leading health think tank says that assisted dying would place added pressure on the NHS, hospice and social care capacity. The Nuffield Trust says that assisted dying runs the risk of creating a substantial task for the healthcare system, especially as demand rises. Joining me now, Nathan Stilwell, who is the campaign manager of My Death, My Decision. Mr. Stilwell, good to see you on Sky News this afternoon. What do you think about this report's conclusions and recommendations?
Well, overall, it's an incredibly good report. What the report does is look at jurisdictions around the world, like Australia and the United States, and looks at how they implemented assisted dying and how it works there. And overwhelmingly, what that shows is that so many other countries and so many other places have really safe, compassionate assisted dying laws. And there's nothing to stop the UK from looking at those countries, learning from those countries, and giving people who are dying, giving people who are terminally ill, some compassion and control and choice at the very end of their lives.
The recommendations, though, seem to be calling for more time to be built in before this becomes reality. That can't be welcome in your mind.
No, I'd say exactly the opposite. So, for example, Victoria in Australia took 18 months to implement their assisted dying law. New Zealand took 12 months, and that was in the middle of COVID when there were substantial pressures on their end-of-life systems. But the government have set themselves a 4-year deadline to implement assisted dying services. That is way too long. Put yourselves in the shoes of a terminally ill person. If you were diagnosed with cancer today, you would want that choice, you would want that support, you would want to know that if my pain, if my suffering became too much, I would have that choice and that option. And I think 4 years is way too long of a deadline to set this up. It needs time, it needs to be safe, but 4 years is too much.
What about the recommendations around appropriate training?
Yeah, absolutely. We've always argued that doctors, nurses, pharmacists should get excellent training. And again, what I really want to stress here is we can learn from Australia, we can learn from New Zealand, the United States, Portugal, Spain, Austria. There are so many countries around the world now that have assisted dying legislation. The UK does not need to start from scratch. We can literally take Australia's training and Australia's services and put them into the UK system. And that's very possible. That training should be good. That training is already mandatory by law. So what we need now, essentially, is for Parliament and then the rest of the UK to get on with it and create a safe and working law.
Are you concerned that reports, though, like this might just add to the time that it takes before implementation?
Hopefully they should do the exact opposite. I mean, if you go through this report, it's lengthy, it's over 100 pages long. It literally outlines what all these jurisdictions do to implement their assisted dying laws. You know, we are not the first country by a mile to go through this system. We can and should create a system that gives these terminally ill people choice and compassion at the end of their lives. That's what they want, is just that very much that choice, that control over the end of their lives.
It was supported by MPs by a pretty narrow margin, and we're now waiting for the House of Lords. Are you concerned about legal challenges?
No, not at all. I think the assisted dying already works in countries like Austria, Portugal, Spain that are part of the European Court of Human Rights. I think there's been legal challenges already in the UK, and the Supreme Court and all of the high courts in the UK have said, no, this is a job for Parliament. Parliament must decide where the lines in the sand are. So really what my concern is every single day I talk to terminally ill people, I talk to the families of people who have died horrible, painful deaths that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. And what I'm concerned about is I think Parliament needs to listen to them. I think Parliament needs to create this safe and working law. It's already too late for too many people. So this really should be a priority.
OK, Nathan Stilwell, thank you for talking to us.
Thanks for having me.